Okay, let's pick up where we left off. So our buffers have successfully been executed. We can take a look at those. Let's put in our clipped highways. There they are. That's good. And let's see. So why don't we go ahead and just symbolize these, and we'll just ratchet these guys back just a little bit so that they're not quite as prominent. A little more red than that. Okay, so one of the things that I would like to do at this point is to, I've got my volcanoes buffer, there it is right there, but since we're not interested in anything but stratovolcanoes, we have them set that way in our analysis, so that's good, but I think I'm going to go ahead and just go to the type field and then add the stratovolcanoes as the types. Oops. That's not what I wanted. The wrong button. So grab the stratovolcanoes, and now if I say okay, there's my stratovolcanoes, and I'm going to go ahead and just group these values, and let's go ahead and make this guy red for our stratovolcanoes. Getting a lot of red going on the screen here. Maybe I'll go with let's go with a little bit of a darker brown orange. Okay, so now we've got just our stratovolcanoes appearing. One thing that I could do, and this wasn't part of the assignment, but I don't really want to see all those other volcanoes, so I'm going to go ahead and do a clip to shape operation, and I'm going to clip to shape using the outline of the lower 48 states. And when I do this, I like to throw a border on it just because it tends to make it look a little cleaner. And so now we're in good shape. So the next step in our analysis is that we want to get the volcanoes. Let's see, I'm going to go back to my list for a second. So we're going to overlay the volcanoes buffer with the road layer that we created. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an intersect command because I want to get the place that the input roads, in this case the interstates, intersect the buffer of the volcano. Okay, and so I'm going to call this interstate volcano impact. Okay, and so we'll go ahead and run this guy. And now we have a new layer that we can classify as those that are, so there's our volcano buffer 1. We'll add all values, and this should give us the interstate impacted by volcano. Let's see how that ends up looking. So this is a time when I might want to kind of scrutinize my data a little bit more, and now I can actually see up here the area that is impacted. We'll throw the complete interstates on top of that, and looks like I got the result that I wanted to. Again, I'm feeling like I'd like those to stand out just a little bit more, and so at this point I can turn my my buffer off, and we're in good shape. So our next step is to join the table of population, and that's going to go to the lower 48 states layer, and I'm going to go ahead and let's turn this guy back on. Feeling like this is a little heavy-handed right now in terms of my display, so I'm going to set my transparency here to 50%. Just pull those colors back just a little bit. That looks better. Okay, and so again, I don't need to see all of my volcanoes. Let's go ahead and just turn off all the other volcanoes so we don't have to see them on the screen. Oh, that's a little bit better. And we'll zoom to this layer again. Show the impacted highway areas. And we'll come back to this in a few minutes, but right now we're going to insert a data frame. We are going to paste the layer that we just took. And in this case, I want to unsymbolize this because I'm going to be joining the population data here in a moment. So we could turn that layer on. Okay, so the table that we're interested in is going to be found in this same location. Oh, I thought I put a copy of it. Well, I have it in another location, which I'll grab. And there it is, the U.S. population in 2017. And I just grabbed this off the internet. It's got some nice information, percent growth, percentage of the U.S. population. And of course we're going to join this, so we have to execute the join by specifying that we are going to be working from the name of the state. And in the case of this CSV file, that's just called state. And anytime I execute a join, I always want to go in and check in my attribute table, and we'll join the fields at the end of the table, so that looks good. And now that we have that, we can classify this guy. We're on quantities now, right, because it's population data. Here's our 2017 population. And I always like to change these. It's something about just using the default I find uncreative. See, I think I had you guys do that in Quantile. Again, there are lots of different methods that you can use for classifying your data. And I guess this is my Think Pink version of the map. Okay, so let's jump back over to this data frame. Now we're going to do the labeling. Now this turned out to really be something that I hadn't intended to make as complicated as it was, simply because there are so many different places in here that we can work from. So there are many different ways that we could handle this situation. One would be to just come in and actually select the features that we're interested in. So for example, if I only wanted to do stratovolcanoes, I could go back to my Select by Attributes screen, and I could say, all right, well, let's take the volcanoes layer. There it is. There's volcanoes. And I could take the type, get those unique values in there again, and then just save this guy, right? So once I had done that, okay, so let's see, type equals stratovolcano, or type equals, need another or in there. Okay, and once I've done that, then I could export this guy. Now, this is a little clunkier than it needs to be. This will be the stratovolcano. Okay, so now I've got only stratovolcanoes. Turn off all my other volcanoes. And then you can see now that I only have the stratovolcanoes for all the states, but we've masked everything that's not in our 3-state area here. So having done that, we could simply label those features, and now we have only our stratovolcanoes labeled. Now that's a little bit of a clunky way to do this, so let's take a slightly different approach with cities. First of all, you do have the ability from the draw menu to simply pick and choose cities that you want to label from. And so, for example, I can come in and just say, all right, well, let's grab our label tool. Once we have our label tool, we might come in here and say, all right, well, we're going to come in and label cities by just sort of hunting and pecking. Again, there's so many city names in here that we're probably going to might have a hard time hitting some of our features, but there's San Francisco. By the way, you see the limitation of working from the clip to shape, because in this case now I've actually blocked out my ability to put my label any place but where I actually have the polygons. So again, I could ratchet the size up, and I could make this bold, but I am going to have to keep this thing within the boundaries of where our polygons lie. Okay, so that's one solution, not a very elegant solution. I think probably the easiest way to handle this, again, you could have selected all these by a query, but that's not necessarily something that we wanted to do. Exporting the file adds disk space and so forth. So we can actually do this on the fly if we wanted to. And what I'll do here is I'm just going to use population size. So I'm going to open up the attribute table, and I am going to sort by, let's use 2007 population. So the largest, if I use the largest, let's see, I want to make sure I get, let's use the largest 20 cities. So if we do the largest 20 cities, that's going to give us, we'll use a population cutoff of, let's see, should we get the value right? Looks like 640,000 people. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close. Now you can't simply select those for labeling purposes. So what we can do, however, is from our labels we can actually specify different classes. Now I didn't actually show you guys how to do this, so what you would do is you would say for big city we'll set a query, and we'll set a query on this that says population greater than 640,000, and if it meets that criteria we are going to symbolize it with this. Okay, and let's make it italic just so we can have things mixed up a little bit here. We need to label not equal, then it should be greater than 640,000. Let's see, it'll always have a default, but we don't want to label the default ones because those are all the other cities. Let's go back to big city again, check our SQL query, population 2007 greater than 640,000, that looks good. We have a scale range set on this guy. There we go. Okay, now again we're showing all the cities, so we might have to manipulate that a little bit more. One of the things that I'll do here is to, running out of time again, we'll have to pick this up on the next round.